Good evening, my friends, and welcome to day 49, episode 34 of Disasterpiece Theater here in the Empire Wasteland. For those of you that are returning, of course, welcome back. And for those of you that it is your first time, welcome to my parlor. Tonight's piece is perhaps the greatest work of fan fiction of all time. If not, it's definitely tied for the first with Milton. Speaking, of course, of Mr. Dante Alighieri, his work, The Divine Comedy. Tonight's reading comes from the Inferno, at special request, Canto number 5. I happen to have this in the original Tuscan and translated to English with the illustrations by Doré. Let's give it a shot. I hope you enjoy. Thus I went downward from the topmost ring into the second, where in smaller space the greater torments bring forth cries of woe. There Minos stands and snarls with gnashing teeth, examines at the entrance every sin, and by his writhings judges and condemns. I mean that when the soul foredoomed to grief comes in his presence, 'tis confessed outright, and that discerner of transgressions wills, to which infernal pit it shall be plunged. Coiling his tail around himself, each turn denoting a degree of woe. Before him stand ever waiting multitudes, each spirit passes alone before the judgment seat, speaks, hears its fate, and then is hurled below. O you who come to the abode of woe, said Minos, as he saw me. Then he paused, even in the act and the function of a doom. Take heed how you go in, and whom you trust. Let not the gate deceive you by its width. My leader answered, Why vex yourself, or seek to bar his way, decreed by fate? It is thus willed where the power is to do that which is willed, and therefore asks no more. Now I begin to hear the cries of grief, for I was in a place of many groans, outcries of pain that smote me where I stood. From out a region blind and void of light that bellowed like the sea when churned about by mighty tempests of opposing winds. The hellish blast with ceaseless fury rages to sweep along the spirits in its rush, molesting them with constant buffetings, and when they come before the precipice, cries and lamentations strike the air, and blasphemies against the power divine. I learned that to such torment are condemned the sinners of the flesh, who vilely yield their reason to their carnal appetite. As when in times of cold the starlings fly, borne on their wings in large and crowded flocks, so did the blast convey those wretched souls, now up, now down, now round, and they whirled. No hope of rest could ever comfort them, or even moments lessening of their pain, as cranes proceed with their unearthly cry across the heavens in long aerial line. Thus came rustling, clangorous company, a wailing flight of ghosts upon a gale, wherefore I asked, O master, who are those whom the tempestous blackness castigates. The first of those whom you would have news, he answered, was an empress, and held sway over men of many tongues, but was so sunk in sensual vices that to lift the blame from the perversions which she wallowed in, all license was permitted by her law. She is Semiramis, who history says as Ninus' widow sat upon his throne and ruled the land where now the Sultan reigns. The second, she who slew herself for love, unfaithful to the ashes of Sychaeus. Behind her comes voluptuous Cleopatra. See Helen there, for whom so many years of strife were wasted next to the great Achilles, who battled in his final hour with love. See Paris, Tristan, these and many more than 1,000 shades whom love divorced. From life he pointed out and named me. And when I heard my master call my name, those knights and ladies of antiquity, pity so smote me that I nearly swooned. I said to him, O poet, I would speak to that sequestered pair that cling together and seem to float so lightly on the wind. He answered, take heed when they approach. More nearly to us, ask them by love that which bears them on, and they will come to you. Now when the wind had wafted them to us, I raised my voice, O wearied souls, unless forbidden by another, come and speak. Like doves that with their wings upraised and still are borne upon the air by their desire, when longing calls them back to their soft nest. Just so these two left Dido's company, to come toward us through the fetid air, so strongly were they drawn by my appeal. O living creature, gracious and benign, who though this air as dark as pitch has come to seek us who have stained the earth with blood, where he who rules the universe, our friend, we would beseech him for your soul's repose, because you have compassion for our lot. Of what it pleases you to hear and speak, we will converse with both of you, so long the bitter blast is lulled as it is now. The land where I was born lies on the shore where Poe, with all his riot retinue, pours towards the ocean stream in search of peace. Love, which lies smoldering in each gentle heart, inflamed him for the beauty that was mine. And now 'twas taken from me, shames me still. Love that will take for answer only love caught me so fiercely up in his delight that, as you see, he still is by my side. Love led us to one death. Cain awaits. For him who quenched the flame of both our lives. There were the words that came to us from then. When I had understood those injured souls, I bowed my head, nor ever lifted it. until the poet said, "What are your thoughts?" I answered him, beginning in this manner, "Alas, what loving thoughts, what fond desires have brought them to this lamentable pass?" Once more I turned to them and raised my voice. "Francesca, I am moved to bitter tears by pity for the torments you have suffered. But tell me, in that hour when sighs were sweet, how did love let you know, or chance discover, to drift of all your fond imaginings?" And she replied, "There is no greater grief than to recall a bygone happiness in present misery. That your teacher knows. But if you have so great a wish to learn the very root whence sprang our sinful love, I'll tell you our tale, like one who speaks and weeps. One day, to pass the time, we read the book of Lancelot, and how love conquered him. We were all unsuspecting and alone. From time to time our eyes would leave the page and meet to kindle blushes on our cheeks. At one point alone we were overcome, when we were reading how those smiling lips were kissed by such a lover, Paolo here, who never more from me shall be divided, all trembling held and kissed me on the mouth. Our Gaelot was the book, and he wrote it. Ah, Gaelot. On that day we read no more. While the first spirit told her tale, the other wept with passionate grief that mastered me. I felt faintness, as if it were of death, and like a corpse fell headlong to the ground. There are 7 more spheres after that point. My friends, I thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. As always, keep it spooky, keep it safe, and cheers.